All right, so we're done with our quote layer, and I would like to change that font, but we have a limited amount of time. I can't noodle forever in front of you. And I'm just going to say dream right here because that's what I want to remind myself to do. That's what this quote's about. Sits on your desktop, right? So we're on a new layer. We have these other two layers locked. See the little locks? That means I can't possibly work on this layer right here. Can't select it, can't do anything to it. So I'm going to come up to the dream layer and once again get my type tool, click one time and type the word dream. Click on the black arrow. Again, this pops up as black by default. Now, changing the size of this, we can type in a number, but you are going to grab this corner because that's what kids do. You're just going to grab this corner and you're going to do terrible things to this word. Do not distress type. Okay, don't do this. Don't do this. When you start dragging, hold down Shift in Illustrator. Photoshop works a little different. Okay, Shift now allows you to do this in Photoshop. I don't know why they changed it. So I'm going to just say something like that. So because I held down Shift, and if I hit Command Z a couple times to get that back, if while I'm doing this, I hold down Shift and then I let go of Shift before I let go of the mouse cursor, did you notice how that stretched? And how do you know this stretched? I'm going to look at your character panel. If I think you tortured type, I'm going to look over here and notice that either the vertical scale or the horizontal scale will be at something other than 100%. There's a time to do this, but you have to learn the rules before you can break them, and it all depends upon the font. So, excuse me, I'm just going to go ahead and, well, let's take this to 500 just for kicks. And that's what I'm going to accept. What I want to do is make these things kind of align, and that D probably moves over a little bit. So now because this is locked, I can't accidentally select this type back here. Now when I start moving this, if I hold down Shift, it moves straight up and down. And I can position this where I want it. And then say, you know, but I don't want it that heavy. Remember how my other one had a stroke on it? What if we reversed the fill and the stroke? See this little two-headed arrow? That's how you swap them out. So if I click on that, all of a sudden I have no fill, which lets my background show through, and I have a stroke on this. Now, Window, Stroke, right here. You want to bring up the stroke panel, and yes, it's in Properties, so you can see it there, but I want you to also see the stroke panel because you have a little more control. And again, remember the different ways that you can see this panel. And that's that double-headed arrow that's sitting right there to the left of the name. Where do I want to align the stroke? I don't want to put it in the center. I don't want to put it on the inside. I want to put it on the outside so that my type isn't affected by this. And then I can increase the weight of that stroke a little bit. And then, because that stroke is a little too dense for me, I'm going to change the opacity of that stroke. And that's in the Properties panel. And I'm just going to lower it down, not quite that much. Say something like that. Then when I deselect, this kind of looks a little better. And I'm going to put my character panel back in here. Okay, is it perfect? No. But that's what I want you to do is to experiment. And just when you finish it, you're going to say, Scotchko, I'm done. Then I'm going to look at it and say, hey, you know these lines right here that I can't select? because I have it locked. So if I click on quote, I can say, you know, these lines are a little tight together. Why don't you increase the leading between those lines? You're going to go, huh? Leading? What the hell is that? What the heck is that? And notice right here, set the leading. So if I start clicking that up arrow, I get a little more control over the distance between the lines, which is called leading because of back when type was set by hand and it was physical and made of lead. They actually put strips of lead between the lines of type to increase that spacing. That's why it's called leading. Okay, so you're going to learn a little bit about typography here. I want you to spend some time. I don't think this is right. I think what happens if this is 600? I think, you know, and the biggest is not always the best. You know, you got to spend some time figuring out what works best for you and try to make this look as good as possible. And you may want to change the font. Call me over. Let's see what you're doing. And let's, in the next step, I'm going to hit Command-S to save that. Let's come back and put this on our desktop, and I'll show you how to do that.